Here, and I'm going through the first PowerPoint. So what we're going to be doing this week is doing the amendments, and there are 27 amendments total. So there's two PowerPoints or two Google Slides, whichever thing you want to open to use. And one is on amendments 1 through 10, and one is on 11 through 27. So I'm doing 1 through 10 first. If you remember back when Ms. Fadley was teaching you, she taught you about the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists and how they had to do all these compromises to get the Constitution to pass. Well, one of the compromises was the Anti-Federalists, the people in the South, Thomas Jefferson, farmers, stuff like that, people down in North Carolina, thought that the Constitution sounded a lot like the government they just had in Great Britain, the government they just fought a war and did all this to break away from in England. And the people in the South are like, wasn't it you people up north, like in Boston, who even wanted me to fight this war to begin with? You wanted me to go through all this to get rid of a king? Well, I'm reading this Constitution, and it kind of sounds like you're setting up the same thing, but you're just calling it a president instead of instead of a king, and all these things. So the Anti-Federalists really wanted some protections. They wanted to make sure that some of the things that happened during their time under Great Britain's rule wouldn't happen again. And so they wanted it like spelled out, like put it in stone, you know what I'm saying? And so before the Constitution was ratified, they had to add the first 10 amendments. So amendments, if you go back again to when Ms. Fadley was teaching you in Unit 1, we talked about the part of the Constitution had a preamble, the articles, executive branch, legislative branch, judicial branch, and then had amendments. Amendments are changes over time. There's 27 of them, so technically we've changed the Constitution 27 times, or the first 10 came with the Constitution. That's the ones I'm going to show you right now. To get the Constitution ratified, get the Anti-Federalists and all those southern states and stuff to sign off on it and make the Constitution be a thing and make it govern America, they had to protect their liberties. So the first 10 amendments actually came with the Constitution. If you want to get really technical, we only changed the Constitution 17 times because the first time we added a change was number 11 because the first 10 came with it. So this PowerPoint or Google slide that you're taking your notes from will cover those first 10 that originally came with the document. All right, so let's talk about these. So the Bill of Rights. So you think about like rights, and if we were in class, we'd be talking about what type of rights you have. And so what's the purpose of this? So the purpose of this is to protect our individual rights, like give us freedom of speech, give us the right to bear arms, which is to own a gun. It is to restrict the government. So if you remember the government during that revolutionary time, the reason we went to fight a revolutionary war is the government was getting too big and the government was telling us too much of what to do, and they were getting too involved and taxing us too much and taking away too many liberties. So it's to restrict the government, like keep the government at bay, keep the government from just going crazy and doing whatever they want. It's protect people who are accused. Now, you know, a lot of times we think, oh, well, if you're accused of a crime, you probably did it. And, you know, probably in the majority of time, that's probably true. But there's a lot of times people are accused of something and they honestly didn't do it. And if they didn't have a fair legal system in place, then they might not get proven innocent like they are. They might, you know, just get thrown away in jail or, you know, death penalty. And those things were happening during the revolutionary time. You know, there was no trial. There was no jury. If you look like the person they said did it, bam, you did it. If the person was really wealthy and powerful and didn't like you and said you did something, then they just said you did something and took you to jail, killed you, whatever it was. It was pretty harsh reality back then. So it's to protect the accused. And then, like I said, the Anti-Federalists wanted to add this. So restricting the government, like I said, keeping the government at bay, like no troops in your house, you have rights to your property, the states have rights to do what they want, protecting the accused, giving you a trial, and no cruel and unusual punishment. All right, so let's jump right in. The First Amendment has 5 freedoms. You have to know all 5. So you need to write these in your box: religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Hopefully you've already wrote your notes. It'll be easier if you want to pause this right now, write all the notes, and then come back, you can. If not, just kind of pause it after each one and write it. That just might be a lot of starting and stopping, but it's up to you. If you know what these words are, you can just write religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. If some of those words you don't know what they are, you need to do some type of thing in there to explain it. And if you're writing on my chart, you might have to write kind of small. If you're doing it on notebook paper, you know, just go however much you write. So freedom of the press is the media. Now, back then, it would have just been the newspaper. That was it. But today, you know, we added radio over time. We added TV over time. We've added the internet over time. So it's any type of media. that basically they can say whatever they want. You can get on Facebook, you can get on the news, you can write an editorial in the newspaper, and you can say how much you love the current president, and nothing will happen to you. You can get on there and say how much you hate the current president, and nothing will happen to you. You have freedom of the press. You know, the news people, they can criticize, a political leader, they can ask them questions, that type of stuff. And that was something that did not go on back under the rule of Great Britain, back when we had a king. And those don't go on in authoritarian, I always fuck that word up, authoritarian types of government. They don't question their leader. They didn't do that to Hitler in Nazi Germany or anything like that. So this is a way to keep, the people in check, because they know that people can criticize them and talk bad stuff about them, talk crap about them or whatever. Freedom of assembly, if you assemble, that means you go together. So this is the freedom to get into a group. So we think of protests, marches, stuff like that. Now you have to obey the law. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, turn it into a riot and vandalize cars and buildings or anything crazy, set stuff on fire. You can't do that. That's breaking the law. But as long as you're peaceful and you're law abiding, they can't tell you to go home. You can get into a group. And so you've seen people protest stuff over the past couple years, from, the Black Lives Matter movement, to people protesting Confederate statues and stuff like that all across North Carolina about a year ago. So, and teachers, they were doing it a couple years ago, going to Raleigh. People said it was a strike, but it wasn't. It was just teachers going, and they just assembled. And sometimes when you're one person talking, no one listens to you. It's really easy to ignore you. Forget about him. There's 1,000 people talking. It's not so easy to not listen to them. You know what I'm saying? It's not so easy to ignore them. And so if one teacher goes to Raleigh and complains, whatever. 1,000 teachers go to Raleigh and complain, all of a sudden Raleigh and the lawmakers and all those people in charge, they have to listen and they have to see what's going on, trying to make them happy so that they go back home and stuff like that. So that's a symbol, assembly. And Raleigh is our state capital, if you wonder what I was talking about just then. And then freedom of petition. Petition is probably the least used out of all these, but you can petition the government. Maybe you've heard of a petition. I feel like they would do them maybe in school or in a TV show or movie. It's I want a petition to give us a homecoming dance, or a petition to get soft drinks served in the cafeteria at lunch or something like that. And it's where you have this thing you want to get done, and then you get people's signatures. And when they sign it, they're saying they agree with you. So you could petition government to change election day to October. You can petition government to add an extra holiday. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but you have the right to do it. And there are things that have been started. There's holidays and stuff like that have been started by petition, by people doing a formal request and then getting more and more people's, signature and support and backing and stuff like that. There are limits, though. You can't just lie. So I do have freedom of freedom of speech. I can't just lie. You know what I'm saying? So if I lied, that would be, that's breaking the law. That's a form of fraud, right? So if I speak it, that's slander. So if I was speaking lies about you, you could come back and sue me. If I was on the press speaking things about you, we're running for office against each other and you're my opponent. I don't like you. And I'm saying all this stuff that's really honestly not true. You could sue me because that's slander if I'm saying it. If I'm printing it, typing it out, writing it in newspapers, magazines, stuff like that, that's libel. You could also sue me for that. I could also be found guilty of these. These are crimes. You can't do that. So you can't just knowingly lie. Now, one thing to talk about here is freedom of speech, okay? This thing right here is that you're taking notes on. This is a contract between you and the government, okay? This is on the Constitution. That's the government. This is a contract between you and the United States of America. The United States of America says you can say these things. But this isn't just a free pass to go out and just run your mouth and say whatever you want, because this isn't a contract between you and anyone else. So let's say I'm a teacher, and let's say I just started saying terrible stuff, in the classroom, just whatever, just all this bad stuff. Let's say I started writing terrible stuff on my Facebook wall. Let's say I just started printing out and mailing out all this terrible stuff, whatever it was, racist stuff, sexist stuff. Let's just say it's the worst, right? Okay. I could say freedom of speech all day long. And that's true. Sadly, people can have beliefs that you and I don't like, and they're like, whoa, that's so bad. That's so wrong. But honestly, yeah, they do have the right to say it. Okay. Just like you and I have the right not to. So I'm not going to go to jail for that, because this is a contract between me and the government. The government, the police arresting you, jail. They can't just throw me in jail for saying I don't like a certain type of person. Right. But this isn't a contract between me and anyone else. This isn't a contract between me and my job. Okay, so Glenn High School, Winston Forsyth County Schools, they could read what I'm writing online and be like, whoa, we don't want that lady to be a teacher. They could, hear what I'm saying out and about and say, whoa, that's not the type of person we want teaching. And they could fire me. And I can't say, I can't claim, well, whoa, I have freedom of speech. They could be like, yeah, Ms. Parnell, you do have freedom of speech. That's why we're not arresting you, okay? That's why you're not going to jail or anything like that, because you do have the right to feel this way. But, as an employer, I don't have to employ you. I don't have to let you be a teacher. If I went down in the cafeteria, or if you went down in the cafeteria, started going up to somebody, running your mouth, they might just knock you out right there, right? If what you're saying is just really bad, mean, hateful, terrible stuff. And you can't get up from the ground and be like, whoa, freedom of speech, you don't have the right to hit me. Again, freedom of speech is true. They're not going to arrest you or something. The government's not going to come take you. But freedom of speech isn't free of consequences or anything like that. It doesn't mean you can say whatever you want and someone's not going to get mad at you. Someone's not going to punch you. Someone's not going to fire you from a job. Someone's not going to be like, whoa, I'm leaving this relationship. I don't really want to be with, a racist or whatever. So there are limits to it, and just kind of keep that in mind, because I think a lot of times people think freedom of speech means I can say whatever I want, and it does. But in this context, it doesn't mean it gets you out of consequences in life. You say the wrong thing to the wrong person, there's going to be a consequence. You say the wrong thing, you see what I'm saying? So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment means you have the right to bear arms. And what bear arms means, it means own a weapon, own a gun. We have the right to do that. And so this is a pretty controversial one. People talk about a lot today and stuff like that, who gets to own a weapon or a gun? What type of gun? What type of weapon? And all these type things. How much? Is there a limit to the amount of guns you should be able to have, or ammo? Is there a certain type of gun or ammo you shouldn't be able to have? Are there certain people that maybe we shouldn't give guns to? That type thing. But see, the Constitution doesn't specify that. So lawmakers and people go back and forth all day long with gun control, from everyone can have as much of everything as they want to only certain people can have certain things in small amounts. And it's just kind of wherever you find yourself in that debate. But basically, it was so that we could protect ourselves against the government, because if you remember the Revolutionary War, that's us turning on our government. Our government was Great Britain. We were a part of Great Britain. We were not America yet. Okay, we were England, just over here on the other side of the world. And our ruler was a king. It was the king, King George. And so when we got our independence and we became America with a president, it's because we turned on our own government. And so the reason this is here is because we don't ever want the government turning on us. We don't ever want them coming after us, and us not being prepared. So it's kind of that mindset of we need our weapons in case the government or someone else gets bad. We can rise to the occasion, rise to the challenge, and protect ourselves. That was why this was written. Now, is it used for that nowadays? That's up to you to decide. But that's kind of where the context comes from. Number three is kind of weird, and some people are like, why don't they just take it out? Well, you can't really just take one out. And honestly, it being the third thing should show you how important it was at the time. Because if you're making a list, if you're making a list of 10 things, the number 3 thing you write, that's going to be pretty big, right? That's why it's in the number 3 spot. So basically what this is no quartering of troops in home. And you might be like, what does that mean, Ms. Parnell? So basically what happened is, when we were part of Great Britain, the police force, if you will, were the soldiers. They were the people over here making sure we're paying our taxes and doing what's right, and yada, 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 yada. They're the enforcers, okay? And so, sorry, a little snack break for the kiddos. Okay, go get it. Sorry. So we were real life kids. So the soldiers were the enforcers, okay? And so here's the thing. They came over here to America. They're actually British people. They're British soldiers, troops. Where are they going to stay? We're America. We're the frontier. We don't have buildings yet. We don't have any places for them to stay. So they stayed in people's homes. And you're like, okay, big deal. You have somebody spend the night. Well, it was a big deal. It's tons of guys. They would eat you out of house and home. They would take your stuff. These are guys who have been away from home for an extended period of time. So not trying to be too, but they also took other things they wanted, like people, like women, stuff like that. Your daughter, your wife, your whatever. And so it was really, really bad. It was really, really bad. Because if you think about it, if we're here in America on the frontier, all we got is what we got. Like the food, there's no grocery stores. Like the food we're going to eat is what's out back. It's what we're growing in the ground, or it's what the eggs, the chickens are giving us, the milk, the cows are giving us. So if they eat all our meat, if they kill all our cows, eat all our eggs, kill all our chickens, like, what are we going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we going to eat? If they see something nice in our house, we have this silver plate or something like that, and they want to take it, what are we going to do? They have guns, we don't. They're the law, we're not. They're in charge, we're not. They are the rules. So, you couldn't stop them from taking those things. It was just bad. So it was just really, really bad. So this just proves, you put it over there in trash can. So this just proves that won't happen again. All right, number 4, protection against unreasonable search and seizures. I want you to have that in your notes. So check your notes. If you don't have it, pause it, write it down. I want you to have unreasonable search and seizures. Now, if you're sitting here like, Miss Parnell, a seizure, what you talking about? That's a thing, a medical thing. True, but that's not the seizure I'm talking about here. If I seize something, I take it. Like if you have your phone out in class and I seize it, I took your cell phone. When someone says like seize the day, they mean like go take the day, that type of thing. There you go. Snack time. So this means the government can't unreasonably search your stuff and can't unreasonably take your stuff, which is really important. It shows the rights that we have. So first off, to search your stuff, and you probably know a lot of this, they have to have a probable cause. And so probable cause, it's not enough to say, Sheets just got robbed across the street and I'm a teacher at Glenn and I'm walking back across the street and the cops come and they take me because the lady at Sheets said it was a white lady with brown hair. I mean, to be honest, I'm not the only white lady with brown hair at Sheets, at Glenn, crossing the road. Like, that's a little unreasonable if they just arrest me or search me because of that. But if the person said, white lady, 36 years old, brown hair, pretty sure she teaches at Glenn, gray sweatshirt on, no earrings, walking this direction with these shoes on, this, like they have everything, then that's some probable cause for a policeman to search me. And then they could search me and they find all the stuff on me, that I robbed at Sheets, whatever. So that would be probable cause. But there's a fine line there, and unfortunately, I think we've all heard of instances where it's not been, I don't know the best way to say it, it's not been used the best. You know what I'm saying? They'll just kind of unnecessarily stop people, profile people, stuff like that. And so it's not meant for that to happen. This is meant to protect us. So they have to have probable cause, and to search someone, they get a warrant. And see, here's the thing, like, think about a judge who's like removed from here, like they're in court, they're, in Winston or whatever. They're not in the situation. They're not seeing you. Okay. So they're only going to issue a warrant if what the policeman tells them and shows them and presents to them looks like probable cause. They don't have a dog in the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not biased one way or another. They're this independent third party over there, and they're not like out to get you because they don't even know you, to be honest, right? So that's where a policeman would have to show probable cause. If there's enough probable cause, the judge will issue a warrant that they can search you or me or whatever. If there's not enough probable cause, they won't. Now, there are some instances where they don't need a warrant. So say it's in plain sight. So if you're holding something in your hand, walking down the street, drugs, the money you just robbed from Sheets, whatever it is, they can stop you. That's in plain sight. They don't need a warrant. If they pull you over for, speeding or something and you've got something laying in the front seat, that's in plain sight, that kind of stuff. So, there are some like limitations to this, if it's, the front door of your house is open and they see a crime committed right there, that's in plain sight. It would just be to get behind lock and key that they would need like a warrant or to search your body or your person, stuff like that. So there's some instances, if we were in class, we'd probably talk about this for forever, go through a bunch of different scenarios and stuff like that. But that's what I really need you to know from this one. So unreasonable search and seizures and probable cause to get a warrant. Make sure you have all that down. Now, 5's big. 5 and 6 are going to be the two biggest ones you write. You won't write other big ones. So if you can get through these two, you'll be good. Okay? So due process of law. This means you cannot be deprived life, liberty, or property without all the rights guaranteed in the Constitution. Okay? So you are due the process of law. That's basically what that means. Another snack. Here you go. Okay. All right, y'all go in there and shut the door. Shut the refrigerator and go in there. Shut the refrigerator and go in there and shut the door. Okay. So you cannot be deprived life, liberty, or property without all of these rights. You are due the process of law. So I can't just think you did something bad, throw you in prison for the rest of your life. case closed. Okay, you are due all these steps, all these parts of the process of law. So the first thing is indictment by a grand jury. You may have heard about that before. They don't use it with all cases. They use it with major cases, felony cases, big time cases. And basically, it's like a mini trial before you go to trial. And so you get this thing called a grand jury, and only the prosecution presents evidence. Okay, you don't defend yourself if you were on trial here. And basically, the prosecution presents all this evidence to a grand jury, and the grand jury's job is to say, yes, you have enough evidence, go to trial, or no, there's not enough evidence. It doesn't really look like the person did this. You need to get more stuff if you're going to go to trial. So they would be like, okay, we got the murder weapon. We've got, the bloody, we got the fingerprints on the bloody knife. We've got, video footage. We've got these, people who saw it, these eyewitnesses, and if they presented all that to a grand jury might be like, oh, okay, yeah, looks like you got enough. Proceed to trial. I think this person's done for, that type of thing. So that's indictment by a grand jury. Not every case, criminal case, goes through that stuff. No double jeopardy. So you cannot be tried twice for the same crime. So if you did the same crime over and over again, one on this day, one on the next day, 1 2 months from now, yeah, you'd be charged for that crime and that crime and that crime. You know what I'm saying? Like if you stole from Walmart today and you stole from Walmart next week and you get caught doing it in the future, then you got to pay for this one and that one. So it's not like that. It's each individual instance. So like I cannot be ever charged. Like if I go on trial today for stealing from Walmart and they find me not guilty, because let's be real, I really didn't do it, guys. Come on. They can't ever put me on trial for that again. And so that's the thing, is they get one shot to put someone away. So they're not going to blow it. And if you watch all these crime TV shows, from Blue Bloods to Law and Order to whatever, Criminal Minds, you know that. So they're trying to get every single piece of evidence because they want to convict the person, because they know that if the person gets off not guilty, they're never going to get another chance to prove they did it. And yes, stealing from Walmart, maybe not that big of a deal. Murder, that's a big deal. What if this person really did murder people? You couldn't prove it. They get let go. They're out and about back in society. They can harm people, murder again, stuff like that. That's when it is a big deal. But yeah, they can't charge you twice for the same crime. So if we were in class, usually the question I always gets is, well, what if you really did it and they found you not guilty? Well, I guess congratulations. You got off the hook, right? So in theory, I could like walk out of the courtroom, like they charged me for murder, blah, 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 and they found me innocent. And I walk out and I'm on the courthouse steps and they're interviewing me. Miss Parnell, how do you feel about this? And what if I looked at the cameras and said like, haha, suckers, I really did it. Stuff like that. They would be like, what? Well, they can never charge me again with that exact murder. They could charge me with a million other things, which they probably would. They're not going to let me just keep walking out into society when I just, admitted to murdering someone. They're going to find me in contempt of court. They're going to perjury, lying under oath, obstruction of justice, blah, 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 with evidence, and probably all these other charges I don't even know because I didn't go to law school. But they would find all those charges, add them all up, find me guilty of them because I just admitted to it. So there's no point in putting me on trial, add up all the punishments, and then put me away. You know what I'm saying? So there still is that like catch, but no, they can't put someone on trial for the exact same thing. That's double jeopardy. So they just get one shot. No self-incrimination. You probably heard of this before. If you've ever heard someone say plead the fifth, this is what they're talking about. It's the Fifth Amendment. It means you don't have to talk. You ask somebody a question, they say, I plead the fifth. They don't answer you, right? Because they don't have to. According to this, you don't have to answer someone. You can plead the fifth, which means evoke your Fifth Amendment right, which is not to incriminate yourself. If you incriminated yourself, you made yourself look bad, like that type of thing. So you don't have to do that. But no, I mean, let's be in the real world, right? Like you and I are the jury members. There's this person on trial and they're asking them like, where were you the night of the murder? And they won't answer. They won't tell you where they are. They're saying they weren't there murdering someone. Okay, well, if you weren't there murdering someone, then where were you? Were you at the gym? Were you at the mall? Were you asleep in your bed? Like, where were you? And they won't say it. Let's be honest. How does that make the person look? Probably guilty, right? Because here's the thing. If you weren't doing it, wouldn't you just tell me why you weren't doing it? Like that type of thing. But, you can't lie under oath. That's perjury. That's its own other charge with its own other, punishments and a list of other things. So it's never, it's never a good idea to lie under oath. And so I guess some people sometimes just say, well, can't lie. I guess if I told the truth, that'd look bad. So I'm just not going to say anything. But it kind of still looks bad too, right? And then eminent domain. Eminent domain is kind of a weird one. It's one people don't really like. It means the government can take your property, but they have to pay you for it. So, you've seen this before, like when road construction's happening or something and houses get tore down and the road gets widened and stuff like that. Like the government had to buy those people's houses, but those people really didn't have a choice. So this is kind of one that stinks and people don't like, because a lot of times people don't like giving up their house or their property or whatever, like, well, I'll pay you for it. And they're like, okay, well, that's good, but I don't want a new house. Like, I want this house. I want it on this land. I want it right here on this road. I've lived here for however long, and I don't want to give it up. Even if you're going to give me all this money, I don't want to go build a new house. I want to stay here. So that's eminent domain, and people don't like it because the government, they take stuff. But they have to pay you fairly for it if they take it. So they can't rip you off. Now, here's the other thing. You're not going to turn into a millionaire off of it. Sometimes people are like, ooh, look at my land. Everyone wants it. When it comes time for me to sell it, I'll make a ton of money. Or, ooh, I just upgraded and redid the bathrooms and all this stuff in the house and all these new appliances. The government's about to bulldoze it to put a highway through there. Like, they don't really care about that. So that's where people also get upset. Like, you're not going to get rich off of it. You're not going to maybe make as much money as you could, but they're not going to, like, take your money either. They'll give you the amounts you need. All right, Sixth Amendment. So 6th and 7th, I want you to think of them like this. 6th is criminal cases. 7th is civil cases. Oh, for 5th, make sure you kind of have all these things written in there. I know it's a lot. I won't make you write a lot again. Well, after 6, I won't. So I want you to write criminal cases out to the side for 6. And then when you get to 7, I want you to write civil cases. So there are 2 types of cases. When we get to law after spring break, you'll learn about this. There are cases where a crime was committed and a person's put on trial to see if they did it. That's a criminal case. They go through criminal court. That's all those shows you watch. A lot of those shows, Law and Order, Blue Bloods, all that kind of stuff. Then there's civil cases. Civil cases is when someone sues someone. So nothing criminal happened, but it's 2 people in a disagreement, 2 people in an argument. They're trying to figure out who wins. And that's those shows you watch like Judge Judy, Judge Joe Brown, The People's Court, stuff like that, where it's 2 people trying to decide who's at fault. That's civil. That's the 7th Amendment. So we're going to talk about criminal here with the 6th Amendment. So you get a speedy and public trial. Now, here's the thing. What's speedy to me may be really, really slow to you. And what's slow to you may be super speedy to me. Speedy is one of those like words. It just depends on who you are, like how speedy something is. Are we talking a week, a month? What's speedy? And you get a public trial, which means that kind of, anytime anything's out in public, people are more fair about it, more real about it. If it's behind closed doors, they can say and do whatever they want and put you away, blah, blah, blah. But if it's public, like people could call them on stuff. So they're not going to say or do anything wrong or cheat or bad or stuff like that. So that's why we get a public trial. And speedy, they don't want you just, sitting in jail waiting, months and months and months and months and months before your trial. You get an impartial jury. So impartial means not biased. So they don't want a jury, that's all women or that's all men, all young, all old, all black, all Hispanic, all white. They don't want that. They want it mixed up, because if you get all of one type of person, they might think the same way. So they want it to be unbiased. So let's say the example I always say is, pretend my husband was a policeman and I get called in for jury duty. Okay. So I'm sitting there. I don't know what the case is about. I'm just waiting to hear. And so the lawyers come up to me and they start talking to me. Oh, you're a teacher. Oh, okay, cool. Are you married? Yeah, I have a husband. What's he do? Oh, he's a cop. And they're like, get rid of this lady. And so I'm out of jury duty and I have no idea why. Well, come to find out, I find out that the trial was about a man who killed a cop. Well, obviously they wouldn't want me to be a juror, because let's be real. If my husband is a cop, am I going to be super impartial, super unbiased to this other guy who's accused of killing a cop? Maybe he really didn't even do it. But is that going to be in my head, in the back of my head, influencing me and stuff like that? So they want an impartial jury. So they'd probably dismiss me. Not to say I'd be a bad juror, but you all know there's things in life, you find out something about somebody and you're like, whoa, they are not going to have my back on this one. And it'd kind of be like that. So you want it to be, unbiased. You have the right to know the charges, which means if you get arrested, they have to tell you why. Like, what are they arresting you for? What did you do that was bad? Why are they taking you in? What are you going to be on trial for? Back in the day, they didn't even used to tell people, back in the day, like revolutionary time before they wrote this. People just got arrested and they're like, what are you arresting me for? Type of stuff. And they didn't even tell them. And so they have to tell you what it is, now. They have the right to cross-examine witnesses. So You know, if I'm on trial and you get up there as a witness for the other side and you're just saying all this stuff on Miss Parnell and how she was there, you know, the night of the crime and how she's this type of person. And I'm sitting here like, what? 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 Like, this is all a lie. I don't even know you. You're saying you saw me here. I was never even there. Let's say you did that, right? Well, after you got done, I would then get up and ask you questions and say, wait, so you said you saw me here, but I thought, and I go, da 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 da. And so you cross-examine in an effort to like unprove that or prove that the person isn't credible. Because you know, the person's only going to help one side, the prosecution or the defense, okay? And so I want to prove that you're going to multiple kids, multiple snacks. Yeah. I want to prove that you're wrong and I'm right, right? That's why. So that's why you get to cross-examine. And it's basically just to keep it on the up and up. So somebody doesn't just go up into the witness stand, just say whatever they want, say it was all lies, who knows? And they just say whatever they want. And you're just sitting here like, oh my God, they're going to convict me off all this stuff and none of it's true. You can try and prove yourself or discredit them or stuff like that. That's why people cross-examine. There's a really good scene I always show if we were in class. You can look it up. You can type in Google Legally Blonde cross-examination, and it's where this I'm sure you guys have seen Legally Blonde, but real fast if you haven't, this lady is really young and she's accused of murdering her older rich husband. She won't say where, she really didn't do it. True, okay? She won't say where she was when the guy got murdered because she's like this fitness guru, and if people find out she was really getting liposuction, people quit buying all her fitness tapes and she'll lose all her money. So she doesn't want to say she was getting liposuction. She wants to plead the fifth, not score she was. But she really wasn't murdering the guy either. And so his daughter's up on the stand, not their daughter together, like a daughter he had previously because she was real young and he was old. The daughter's up on the stand saying, I saw you kill my dad, da 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 da. Remember, the girl didn't. And so then her lawyers get up and cross-examine, and then it just blows the case wide open. So if you haven't seen it, Google it, Legally Blonde cross-examination scene, and you'll see why they do that right there. And the last one, the right to an attorney. So you don't have to represent yourself. Most of us are probably not smart enough or good enough to represent ourselves, right? Like, I didn't go to law school. I can't represent myself. If someone put me on trial for something terrible and I really didn't do it, I don't know that I could best prove, hey guys, I really didn't do it. Like, I would need a lawyer to help me who knows like the ins and outs and all this kind of stuff. And so that way everyone has a fair trial. You have the right to an attorney. A lot of people buy one. A lot of people get one for free. So if you can't afford one, the government will provide one. Now, it's like with everything in life, usually. The more you pay for it, the better it is. The cheaper it is, maybe not as good as it is. So, you know, like a free public defender is probably not going to be as good of a defense lawyer as like the $1 million Robert Kardashian Sr. that O.J. Simpson had, which is how the Kardashians got all their money and fame. So you can imagine how good he was. Okay, so the free guy you get in downtown Winston-Salem is probably not going to be as fast talking and smooth and smart and eloquent as like Robert Kardashian Sr., you know. So just keep that in mind. But they'll give you a lawyer if you can't afford one, stuff like that. A lot of times this is how lawyers start out. Like, if you get out of law school, some big law firm isn't going to hire you off the bat and pay you, you know, millions of dollars, drive around in a Mercedes. They don't know if you're any good or not. Like, what if you stink at being a lawyer? What if you can't prove squat? What if you talk like you're terrible in front of people? So usually people have to start out. You can always get a job working for the government. Doesn't usually pay as much because it's the government, you know, like teaching. And they'll start out, they'll prove themselves, show, hey, I know what I'm doing. Like, look at all these trials I did. Look at my record. Look at all this. And then law firms will be like, hey, this guy, he's pretty good, you know, or this girl's got it together. They know what they're talking about. Let's hire them. And then you get hired and you can come be some fancy big shot lawyer or something like that. All right, Seventh Amendment, like I said, was civil cases. So this is when two parties disagree. You have the right to sue someone if it is, for this one, sorry. Make sure you write all those down. I know, it's a lot. Don't hate me. Okay, you're back to not writing that much. If two parties disagree, you can sue someone as long as you're suing them for more than $20. And you're like, what, $20? Well, you got to remember in 1790, that was a lot of money. That was $500, that was $1,000. People worked all day for a nickel, right? So, you know, people were paying for things that were 3 pennies. So $20 was an insane amount of money. And they've just never updated it over time. So for instance, here's my lovely pen. You know, if you were writing with it, you asked in class, can I borrow a pen? I gave it to you, you broke it. it's a disagreement. Whose fault is it? Did I give you a bad pen? Was it just an accident? Did you sit over there and snap it in half? Like, do you owe me $5 for a new pen with Mickey's ears on it? So I would say, if we're in this disagreement, I'm like, give me $5 for my pen. You're like, no, it was already broken when you gave it to me, blah, blah, blah. We could go back and forth. Who's real? So I could sue you and go to court, but I wouldn't be able to in this instance because it's only worth $5. The other example I always use in class is, let's say my phone, you think of where I sit, like you think of where the little computer thing is up front. I always say, like, if I set it on the side of the desk and it was like hanging off the desk, right? Or that little table where we type, and you walked by and it fell and it shattered and broke and it doesn't even turn on or work anymore. I'd be like, hey, you owe me a couple $100. That's a new phone. Your fault. You knocked it off. And you could look back at me and be like, no, I don't. It was an accident. And your fault. You didn't even have a case on it, Miss Parnell, and you had it dangling off of a surface this high in the air on like tile floor. Like, I'm not the idiot here. That was stupid. Why would you do that? So we have this disagreement. In that instance, my phone is valued at more than $20. I could sue you. And we could go to court and you tell the judge why it's not your fault, and I tell the judge why it is your fault. You're telling the judge why it's mine. I'm telling the judge why it's not mine. We're going back and forth, and the judge decides. And whoever they pick, it's their fault. They pay for the phone. Case closed. Now, in real life, probably wouldn't do that over a phone because it's going to cost you a lot to go to court. Like, yeah, I could get a couple $100 from you, but what if I lose? And what if I didn't prove that you broke it? Now I'm still out my phone. I still got to pay a couple $100 and get this bad boy fixed. Plus I'm out court costs, lawyer fees, time off work, and the loser has to pay for the winner's stuff. So I would also have to pay for your court costs and lawyer fees. And it could just turn into, a $300 mistake could turn into a $2,000 mistake very quickly if I lose. So that's where I'm like, yeah, I really want to sue you and get that $300, but what if I lose? And all of a sudden now I'm out $2,000. Was it worth it? That kind of thing. You can also do it in civil cases where someone's getting divorced, fighting over child custody, stuff like that. A lot of times they don't do the jury because, it's kind of private. But if somebody wants a jury, they have to have one. But yeah, these are the judge duties and stuff like that. Eighth Amendment is up next. That is about cruel and unusual punishment. So make sure you do have this catchphrase right here, cruel and unusual punishment. I will do that for you in 2 seconds if you'll wait for me to get done. Okay? I'll clean that for you in 2 seconds. I got a 3-year-old trying to wash an apple off in the sink and it's not going well. If you want me to wash it, give me 2 seconds and when I'm done with this. Okay, she just wiped it off with a towel. Okay, thank you. All right, so no cruel and unusual punishment. So what is it, right? So think about it again. It's like these subjective words. Like what I think is cruel, you might not think is cruel. What you think is cruel, I might not. So take the death penalty. Some people say, oh my gosh, that's so cruel. You're killing someone. Where other people say, that ain't cruel. The person killed someone is pretty equal. I think it's great. Keep it. And you kind of go back and forth. So there have been people who want to get rid of the death penalty. They say, look, how can you have the death penalty? The Constitution right there says no cruel punishment. And then people say, it's not cruel because that person killed someone. How can you not kill them back? So you can go all day, arguing with people over this. But no cruel and unusual punishment. So if someone's put to death, they're not going to be put to death in some unusual way. Like we're not going to do like the guillotine that you learned about in world history where people put their heads, in this thing and then a blade falls down and chops their head off and they die. Or, like if you go to a prison, it's not going to be like cruel. Like they'll give you a bed, they'll give you meals, they'll give you stuff like that. And so that's kind of what that means. Other thing I want you to write down for Eighth Amendment is no excessive bail. So like I said earlier, I get caught stealing from Walmart today. I steal a thing of toilet paper, right? Because it was so crazy out there with all the sickness. Let's say it's valued at $10. They cannot set my bail at $1 million. That's excessive, right? That's not in proportion to my crime, that type of thing. So when you hear about people having a really high bail, they probably did something really, really bad. Rape, murder, really bad stuff. Then there's like moderate bails and there's little bails. And then there's someone who did something like probably me stealing a roll of toilet paper from Walmart. Like I did get arrested. I'll have to go on my trial, whatever. If all that, it's not true. It didn't happen. But you see what I'm saying? But they probably aren't going to hold me in jail with bail because that's not really something big enough. You know what I'm saying? They kind of reserve that for bigger things. Here's how bail works. You do not have to write any of this down. Really, all you need is cruel and unusual punishment and excessive bail. But in case you didn't know how bail worked, I kind of put this for you. It's basically you pay money promising to come back. So they arrest you and put you in jail, and there's bail. And then, but your trial's not going to be for a couple months. If you don't want to sit in jail for a couple months, you can pay this money, go home, and then you promise to come back when it's your trial. Now, if you did something really, really bad, they might not give you bail, because like people who are convicted, accused of murdering, they might not give them a bail because they don't want them to get out of jail and go murder all these people until their trial. You know what I'm saying? They want to keep society safe. So they don't always give bails and stuff like that. But here, go. Okay, you haven't lost any teeth. Go. Let me do this. Sorry. So, where was I even at? Jeez Louise. I don't know what's more crazy, you guys or them. Them 3-year-olds. They're more crazy than you. So, something about bail. You pay it. Oh, and so if you did something really bad, they wouldn't even give you bail. You don't have to pay the full amount of your bail. You can pay like a percentage or something like that. And there are instances where people skip out on it. So if you've heard of bounty hunters or stuff like that, somebody pays the bail. They say, yeah, I'm going to come back next month when it's my trial. Next month comes along, time for the trial. Can't find the person. They're nowhere to be found. So the bail bondsman just lost it, or the person that paid the bail just lost all that money, thousands of dollars. I don't know about you. I would not be happy if I just lost $40,000, and neither anyone else. Now, a lot of times people don't have the amount of money. They have some stuff like a house or a car or something like this that might be valued at that or would add up to that, but they don't have like $50,000 cash sitting around. They had $50,000 cash in the bank account, they probably wouldn't have been out robbing someone anyways, right? So a lot of times they'll go to someone called a bail bondsman, and a bail bondsman will be like, all right, I'll give you the $50,000 you need to get out of jail, but I need some protection. I'm gonna get my money back. So if you go back to trial, I get my money back, check, we're good to go. If you skip trial, I still need some protection. So a lot of times they'll do collateral like a house or a car or something someone owns. But yeah, I mean, they lost out on that money, and so they'll send somebody after you to find you, right? They don't like losing out on all that money. So they'll send a bounty hunter out or something crazy like that. So you don't have to write that down, but that's just kind of how bail works. 9th and 10th, woohoo, we're almost done. So the 9th and 10th go together. These are like your open-ended, okay? There is no way they could put everything in the Constitution that you have the right to do. You have the right to wear purple pants on a Wednesday. You have the right to wear purple pants on a Tuesday. You have the right to wear green pants on a Wednesday and polka dot pants on a Wednesday. Maybe even like no pants on a Wednesday and pink pants on a, you see what I'm saying? There's no way they could write down every single thing that you have the right to do. So this is like open-ended. So the 9th Amendment, I want you to think about it like this. 9 comes before 10, like P comes before S. 9 is people, 10 is state. So alphabetical order, P then S, 9 then 10. That's how you can keep up with it. So 9th Amendment are powers to the people. I want you to write this down and kind of explain it in your notes. That powers not listed in the Constitution are still given to the people. The people still have rights, even though it's not listed in the Constitution. So that's what I want you to have for 9. And then for 10, and like I said, this is flexibility for the future. Plus, they knew they couldn't predict the future. Things would pop up. So, and for 10, I want you to write powers of the state. So S comes after P, 10 comes after 9. And anything not listed in the Constitution, the states get to decide how to do it. So for instance, driver's license. There's nothing about driving in the Constitution. You get a driver's license from the state. Education. There's nothing about school in the Constitution. You get a North Carolina diploma. I'm a teacher. I'm employed by North Carolina, not the United States. Marriage rights. When you get married, you get a North Carolina marriage license. They say, the power vested in me by the state of North Carolina, because marriage is nowhere in the Constitution. So just stuff like that. Anything not in the Constitution, the states get to decide how they're going to do it in their state. And some states do things differently. Before a couple of years ago, when the Supreme Court passed a ruling saying anyone could get married and legalize same-sex marriage, before that, some states allowed it and some states didn't. California, New York, some states like that allowed same-sex marriage. States like North Carolina and other states didn't. Marijuana and the legalization of marijuana is kind of an issue right now until the federal government makes a blanket ruling. Marijuana is nowhere in the Constitution, so each state decides how they're going to deal with it. Some legalize it, and some only legalize it for medicine, and then some don't legalize it at all. So there you go. All right, so that's 1 through 10. There's some examples, that I was telling you about. That's 1 through 10. There's going to be another video for 11 through 27 for the rest of the amendments. Remember, all 10 of these came with the Constitution. They were not changes added over time yet. We start the first change after the Constitution with number 11. All right, see you guys later. Bye.